Adopting a pet is always an exciting experience, but things can become more complex when the animal doesn't match your expectations. Behavioral issues can usually be resolved, and certain bad habits tend to fade over time. However, what if the problem is deeply ingrained in the animal's genetics? One Phoenix woman eagerly opened her heart to an adorable German Shepherd puppy named Ranger, anticipating his growth into a healthy, typical-sized dog. However, as months passed, she noticed peculiar traits in Ranger that led her to realize that he was far from ordinary. Shelby Mayo, an 18-year-old from Phoenix, initially thought Ranger was simply the runt of the litter due to his small size. Concerned about his growth, she consulted her vet, who diagnosed Ranger with a parasite called coccidia, which was likely hindering his development. Even after treating Ranger for coccidia, other health issues emerged, including a second parasite called giardia and an infection on his neck. Mayo found the frequency of these ailments unusual, but she attributed it to bad luck, considering herself a rookie pet owner. However, the vet raised more significant concerns. Ranger's growth remained stunted, and the vet suspected pituitary dwarfism, a genetic mutation. While rare, this condition hinders a dog's production of growth hormone, resulting in a much smaller appearance and various internal health and developmental issues. Mayo wasn't initially convinced that Ranger would never experience a growth spurt, but after his neutering, it became clear that his condition was not improving. He lost his appetite, weight, fur, and his skin became excessively dry and flaky, all symptoms of pituitary dwarfism. Mayo had documented Ranger's growth on Instagram, and the online community of dwarf dog owners rallied around them. They offered physical support, such as goat milk soap, which improved Ranger's skin. They also advised Mayo to monitor Ranger's thyroid, as dwarf German Shepherds often suffer from hyperthyroidism. A visit to the vet confirmed low thyroid hormone levels, causing fur loss and appetite issues. Levothyroxine medication and goat milk soap temporarily alleviated these symptoms. Despite the diligent care, Ranger remains susceptible to the common health problems associated with dwarf German Shepherds. Unfortunately, most dwarfs of this breed have shorter lifespans, often not living past the age of 5. Nevertheless, Mayo remains focused on Ranger's present as he approaches 2 years of age while maintaining the size of a puppy. He is healthy, happy, and full of energy, enjoying playtime with his family and squeaky toys. Mayo has also welcomed 2 more dogs into the family, Hazel and Jessie, to keep Ranger company. Ranger's heartwarming story has captured the attention of animal lovers worldwide, with his Instagram page amassing nearly 120,000 followers. However, Mayo's intention is not to profit from Ranger's popularity but to use any proceeds to cover Ranger's medical expenses. In another story, construction workers in Estonia stumbled upon an unusual situation while repairing the Sindi Dam. They heard a strange sound and found a dog in distress in the icy Parnu River. Without hesitation, they jumped into the frigid water, breaking through the ice to rescue the struggling canine. The men swiftly wrapped the trembling creature in a heavy blanket, finally allowing them to get a closer look. It was a large animal with thick fur and striking yellow eyes, a truly unique appearance for what they initially thought was a common domestic dog. Recognizing the animal's need for urgent assistance, the workers didn't have the luxury of admiring its coat. The blanket did little to ward off the cold, and they knew that only proper medical care, not even a roaring fire, could rescue it from hypothermia. With the shivering animal cradled in their arms, the men carefully placed their newfound friend inside their pickup truck. They promptly contacted a local animal hospital, which advised them to bring her in without delay. The truck raced to the hospital, and throughout the journey, the animal remained remarkably calm. It mostly slept during the ride, with its head resting on Kartsep's lap. Even in its dire condition, it displayed a surprisingly affectionate disposition. Upon arriving at the hospital, veterinarians quickly took charge, carrying the dog inside and immediately commencing treatment. However, they soon encountered a puzzling problem. This wasn't a dog at all. In fact, the veterinarians were baffled as to its true identity. Facing this perplexing situation, they sought the assistance of a local hunter, who, to their amazement, correctly identified the creature. It wasn't a dog, it was a wolf. The construction workers were stunned. Not only had they misidentified the animal, but they had also transported a live wolf in their vehicle without any means of restraint. Had the wolf chosen to, it could have posed a significant threat to them. Fortunately, the icy water had helped sedate the wolf, explaining its docile behavior when the workers rescued it and placed it in their truck. However, as the wolf regained strength, it began behaving like a typical one-year-old wolf in a confined space. To ensure everyone's safety, including the doctors, the wolf was placed in a secure cage. By day's end, the animal had made a full recovery and the clinic believed she could be safely reintroduced into the wild. As a precaution, Estonia's National Environmental Agency fitted the wolf with a GPS collar. When the time came for her release, the wolf dashed away swiftly, disappearing back into the wilderness. Cart Sepp and the others bid her farewell, marking the bittersweet conclusion to an unforgettable day of work. The Estonian Union for the Protection of Animals expressed gratitude to all involved, especially the men who rescued the wolf and the clinic's doctors who provided care. Estonia, being home to a substantial portion of Europe's wolf population, could potentially witness similar incidents in the future. Interestingly, this particular wolf was spotted in the wild just a month after the encounter with the construction workers, over 70 miles from where she was released, suggesting she was thriving. While it might seem improbable to mistake a wolf for a dog, such misidentifications occur more frequently than one might think. In another instance, a father noticed a small animal on a snowy road, initially believing it to be a hamster. However, he soon learned it wasn't a pet but something entirely different, inadvertently engaging in a rodent napping adventure. The creature turned out to be a Norway lemming, a native species of Norway. Despite their resemblance to beloved pets, these furry critters are quite different from what we commonly keep as pets. The lemming was found playing a game of Frogger in the middle of the road, which might seem typical lemming behavior given their reputation for chasing each other off cliffs. However, contrary to the popular video game series Lemmings, these critters are intelligent, skilled burrowers, and they tend to migrate when their habitats become overcrowded. They thrive in their natural environment regardless of the weather. Back in the pet store, Jostang realized that he needed to return the lemming to its natural habitat. He and Sanna returned to the same road where they had initially rescued the lemming and released it into the snowy wilderness, not a hamster wheel in sight. On that gloomy day, they watched as the lemming made its way back home, waving goodbye. Those involved in this peculiar case couldn't help but chuckle, as they had been part of one of the world's most bizarre cases of mistaken identity. Sanna may not have won a Pulitzer for her story, but she ended the day with a smile, having covered a story she and everyone involved would never forget. As for Jostine, even though some criticized him for picking up a wild animal that appeared to be in distress, the pet store worker sided with his well-intentioned rescue effort. He did the right thing, the worker said. He saw an animal he thought needed help. After all, that lemming did bear a striking resemblance to a hamster. In a separate story, Jim Passmore found himself at Hakey Creek in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, where he usually visited with his Yorkshire Terriers. While waiting for his dogs to do their business, he spotted something unusual on the creek's surface, an object that seemed like a large brown log. However, upon closer inspection, he realized it was covered in brown hair and was, in fact, alive. Curiosity piqued, Jim cautiously approached the animal, which seemed to be moving weakly. His dogs began to snarl and growl, sensing some potential danger. Yet, the creature appeared desperate and stuck. Jim then noticed a carrier nearby, the kind used for transporting pets to the vet, and beneath a blanket inside the carrier, he discovered a heavy-weighted chain. It became evident that someone had cruelly abandoned this creature in the wild, intending harm. The animal had managed to escape, but its situation was dire. As Jim observed the scene, another beaver emerged from the woods, seemingly unafraid of human contact. This second beaver's appearance convinced Jim to trust his instincts. Approaching the beaver, Jim realized he had initially misjudged the distressed creature. It was not a beaver but a big fluffy collie concealed by mud and grime. Determined to help, Jim called on fellow pedestrians for assistance but soon realized that any contact with the frightened dog would agitate it. To calm the dog, Jim covered its head with a dark sweatshirt, creating a calming environment. Then they used makeshift dog leashes to create a pulley system, attempting to free the dog from the mud. Despite the efforts of several able-bodied individuals, the dog remained firmly stuck, as if it were glued in place. Finally, after an intense game of tug-of-war, the dog managed to slip free. Jim's elation was palpable as he pulled back the covering and wiped away the mud, revealing the dog's face. The dog appeared thankful, but understandably terrified. It was impossible to determine how long the poor creature had struggled to free itself from the mud after being callously abandoned by its owner. All they could confirm was that the handsome dog seemed perfectly healthy. Jim, a devoted dog lover, seethed with anger at the thought of someone abusing an animal, especially their own pet. He promptly dialed the police, and officers swiftly arrived at the scene. Finally, the frightened pet had advocates, and they were determined to ensure his safety. Upon closer examination, the police began to piece together the sad truth of the dog's ordeal. Locked in the animal carrier and desperately trying to escape, the sweet creature had been heartlessly discarded on the street. At some point, the cage had been struck by a car, sending it tumbling into the forest, where it landed in the muddy bank of the creek. Through a stroke of sheer luck, the dog had survived this harrowing experience, mostly unscathed but undoubtedly emotionally scared. If it hadn't been for the fortuitous appearance of the beaver, who knows if the poor dog would have ever escaped the muck. However, the mystery of the beaver's presence raised more questions than answers. Was the beaver signaling that a fellow animal was in danger, or was it merely a coincidence? Nevertheless, there was no time to ponder this mystery. Officers realized that the dog was in no condition to walk out of the paddock. They needed to get Teddy, as they had named him due to his stuffed animal-like appearance, to the vet for a thorough examination. Teddy was exhausted from his struggle in the mud, and his potential injuries combined with his overweight condition made it impossible to lead him on a leash. Fortunately, luck was on their side again, and they found a wheelbarrow nearby. Wrapped in a warm blanket, Teddy was carefully placed in the wheelbarrow and pushed out of the paddock. Jim's next call was to the Oklahoma Alliance for Animals, and within minutes, they arranged to take Teddy under their care. In a way, Teddy had narrowly escaped another attempt on his life. Being taken in by the OAA gave him a chance at rehabilitation, as his fearful demeanor and justifiable lack of trust in humans would likely have led to euthanasia if he had been taken to a shelter. Additionally, Teddy had bitten one of his rescuers, which, unfortunately, often results in a swift decision to euthanize an animal. However, the rescue group refused to give up on his future. They ran tests to rule out rabies, and the results came back clear. Teddy still had a long journey ahead to regain his health and trust in people. His movements were slow and his demeanor subdued, so he needed to increase his activity to shed some extra pounds. Once the kind-hearted rescue workers started showering Teddy with love and care, his soreness melted away. In its place emerged a gentle, affectionate, and somewhat slimmer, long-coated sweetheart. His story gained widespread attention, and he acquired a dedicated fan base cheering him on during his fitness journey. Teddy didn't have to wait long for his happily ever after. Jesse, a vet tech for the rescue organization, fell in love with his sad puppy dog eyes. The forces of fate ensured that Teddy was found and granted the fairy tale life he truly deserved.